Hello everyone, welcome to Pomp TV. Today we are talking Youth Parliament. And if you're not familiar with me, see me for the first time, my name is Jamie Mighti or Mighty Jamie, and I am a social commentator and a political commentator. But I'm not alone today. I'm joined for this important conversation on Youth Parliament by Ntsiki Mazwai. You know her, but I have to do the formalities and introduce her. She's a social activist, very prominent, very vocal, and she's also a renowned poet. So you may know her for the activism or you may know her for the poetry. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. So today we're talking fees must fall, Wits protests specifically. I just want to hear from you as a starting point. What do you think about this recurrent issue that has been going on now since 2015 in a prominent manner?
Oh yeah, I'm glad you said in a prominent manner because this protest has been going on even way before that. It's just that we were not paying attention to it because it was not the privileged institutions that were bringing it to the table. So students in smaller institutions have always been battling this fees issue. And also it comes back to what the government promised the people. When the new government came in 94, after apartheid, they did promise us free education.
Yes, the poster has been circulated now. Some people didn't know, but now they can see the poster. It's out there, free education. But also Freedom Charter. It goes back all the way to the Freedom Charter.
I've got problems with the Freedom Charter too.
But I mean for the ANC, you know, as the government, that's their paperwork.
It's just unpromised. These promises that just don't
materialize.
They don't materialize. And the problem is that we do have a society that we need to develop and progress. So if we at a fundamental level like education haven't sorted that out, then our country is definitely going to the dogs.
And what do you think about people who say, for instance, that this is the obligation of parents and that the state shouldn't be involved in educating these kids? What do you think? I've seen some, controversial figures on social media say that.
That's ridiculous. I think that because Africans have had their history interrupted, they don't know who they are anymore.
Yeah.
Africans were the first people to have institutions of higher learning.
Yeah.
Timbuktu in Mali, thousands of years ago. So we Africans valued education and knowledge and information, and that's why we built such magnificent things like the pyramids and things that cannot be replicated to this day.
Yeah.
So until we come back to ourselves and the fact that we've got genius minds, when you look at what Africans are doing right inside, you can see that there's a genius going on. You see Africans building cars, whatever. So I think that our biggest problem is that we've moved away from who we are and our own values.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting observation. And for me also, when people say that there's no money, I think one of the questions I often ask is, how are we measuring what we invest in? Because when you look at a budget at a short-term level, obviously you're trying to put water in the buckets that arise, So we had to find money for vaccines, we had to find money for COVID, right? But countries also have long-term investments. When we build roads, we find money for those roads because we understand the net impact to the productive capacity of a nation when we have fully functioning roads.
Absolutely.
Because our goods can travel out of South Africa into the continent, right?
Absolutely.
So it boggles the mind when I hear people say, we don't have money to educate. I've never heard an African parent say, we don't have money to educate. I've always heard parents say, we will do whatever we can to make sure that we are scored.
Exactly.
It's the apex priority.
Exactly.
I remember once my dad told people that we will eat mopane worms if we have to, so that this boy goes to school, because that's his only chance in life. And now we're saying to people who this is their only chance, because some of them, they can't rap, they can't dance, they don't have athletic abilities, they can't crack jokes like Trevor. What they can do is read a book, go to sit for an exam and learn a skill. They may never be famous for that, but they'll be at least able to pay, for their bills.
Yeah.
They'll be able to support their families. They'll be able to survive.
Yeah.
And we say to those kids, no, there's no money, or where are your parents? And that's so backward thinking, because we know the history of the country. We're coming from Bantu Education
Exactly.
Act. How do you act my mother who's a maid?
Yeah,
my
that's what I was
grandfather?
going to get back to, the
Yeah.
point of economic exclusion, and the fact that when we put economic value on education, it excludes people who come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So that alone is an injustice for everybody. It's not fair that only privileged people have got access to education.
So we're joined on the line now by Pamela Nzama, and she's a NSFAS beneficiary, and she wants to share her story with us. Hi, Pamela, how are you?
I'm fine, and you, sir?
Doing so well. Can you just give us an outline of what you've been going through with NSFAS?
Well, I was funded by NSFAS from the beginning of the year, the academic year 2020. And then everything funding was okay. And then it started in September when I did not receive the monthly allowance that normally receive. And I thought, like, it's something which is common in most students because they sometimes delay in our allowances. And then 2 weeks passed by, and then my mother said, maybe it's something serious. And at that time, there was this investigation going on in NSFAS, I think, regarding students, that they are being investigated, and there are students that are using like false information and applying for NSFAS. And then I decided to go to campus. I attended Tshwane University of Technology.
Yeah.
I decided to go to the NSFAS offices at my campus, and they told me that I am no longer funded by NSFAS.
Is it?
They just told me that when I arrived at campus.
So this year, what's the plan? What are you going to do?
This year, the problem is that NSFAS, I received all this information that I'm no longer funded at a very late time. And at that time, most bursaries were closed. And also considering the course that I'm doing, there are very less bursary options and opportunities being given to us, if I may say.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the psychological trauma that you must be facing when you thought you had something and then they take it away from you. So,
well, I decided to reapply for it, and at the moment I'm still waiting for a response. And at the same time, I'm still applying for bursaries that I feel that go along the lines with what I am studying at the moment.
Did they give you reasons why they cut the funding?
Yes. At first, they did not want to give me a reason, and they were, if I may say, I can say they were beating around the bush, but they ended up giving me a reason that my mother is earning her net income for the whole year is above 350,000. That was the reason they gave me.
Well, we're sorry to hear that. We're very sorry to hear that. And hopefully you're also joining the protests there on the streets so that you vocalize that you need access to education. Because we understand that, just because there's a number attached to somebody's income, it doesn't mean that your mother can actually afford to pay the fees. That's what TUT. So I'm so sorry you're going through this. Stay strong, my sister, and keep on seeking your education.
Exactly. I'll definitely do that. Thank you.
So I think we're going to go to a clip now, which discusses, sorry, not a clip, but this idea that NSFAS can say, one, we don't have funds, and two, that, listen, your mom is sorted. It's such a naive understanding of black households. And in fact, it surprises me because the ANC comes from the community. So they know if there's one parent who's a breadwinner there, you're not breadwinning for her alone. You're breadwinning for 20 people, sometimes 30 people. Some money must go back to the rural homestead. Some money must support people at home. There may be some men in the family who are not, contributing. But everyone has to eat. Everyone has to have cosmetics. So when they're counting that money, They are making it seem as if you are coming from an affluent household where you inherited your suburban home, where everything is sorted.
It's not going to work. It just needs to be a blanket approach of free education for everybody. For everybody. And then we're going to have to tax the rich.
Yeah.
To subsidize the education institutions,
and even the people who are working professionally, because there's a lot of people in the professional middle class where we can truly not lay pretender, the real one where we say, listen, there's a middle class here. You guys are earning enough. You're driving BMWs. You're living in these townhouse estates, and every weekend you are at Life Grand or wherever.
Exactly. Drinking alcohol for 10,000 rand.
And we need to think about an education levy.
Yeah.
Because if we go to those 4 million people and we say, look, there's going to be a levy, 100 rand, 250 rand, whatever the number is. There's 5 million of you.
Yep.
Let's actually make
sure
we
can afford free education.
We can. We're
really
not being creative in our approach
we can
to
afford
it.
Free education.
And those who want to opt out, those people can opt out.
Yeah.
If your dad is CEO of ABSA, you can opt out and say, look, don't give me.
Yeah, I'm going to pay part of.
Exactly. Because these kids who are going to Michael House and all of these schools, to be honest, they can afford because the fees, the annual fees we saw, like it was trending a few weeks ago, right? 250,000, 300,000. That's 4 years of varsity. For someone, that's a degree. Your school fees at St. John's is a whole degree. So we're not talking about you. And also you are the minority. So we cannot be basing our thinking around free education on the experiences of the 12,000 kids who come out of IEP.
That's why I think those schools should be taxed.
Yeah.
They should be paying taxes. But generally...
some kind of a levy as well.
Yeah, across the board, it should be free education. It goes without say.
Yeah, and also I think it's important to point out, Uguti, those who say education standards will drop because education is free are being disingenuous. Have you seen that? Because there's the John Steinhazens of this world.
What do they say? What would make it drop?
There's an assumption. You have to exploit, right? Because there's an assumption, but they never say it. They're just like, no, but if we make it free, everything will drop. Because they're assuming that free doesn't mean paid for, right? What we say by free, we mean free to the user.
Yes.
To the student.
Yes.
Not necessarily that the university is just saying
no.
So the entrance standards.
The teachers and the lecturers, we have to pay everybody.
There will still be toilet
running
paper
the machine
in the university.
Yes.
There will still be hand sanitizer now. So what they're trying to imply when they say that, because what they say is when you make it free, and you have to follow the logic because they will never say it. Is when you make it free, who's going to come into the university?
That's what they say.
It's going to be black bodies, and there's sometimes this unstated premise that when you have a lot of black people in a room, something has happened to the quality.
Yeah.
So the quality has been affected.
It's a mental sickness that we have,
and we need to expose it.
Yeah.
To say when you say the standards will drop, why are you saying that?
Yeah.
What is the? Because we've got historically black colleges in America which have produced great intellectuals.
Yeah.
People who've made great art, contributed greatly to science and politics. So what is the premise of the case when they say the standard will drop?
They're being racist.
They are. And you need to expose it. So we're going to go to a Facebook comment from Usiabulu. And he says that Minister Nzimande must come up with a solution before students die in protest.
Students are already dying in protest.
I was about to say that. Because we saw last week. Not even now anybody can die.
There was a UJ student, and I think that's why there's been so much load shedding.
Yeah.
To move away from the story that at UJ there was a student who was killed 2 days ago.
I remember they were critically admitted in ICU. So have they passed on? Has that been confirmed?
I think they passed on. I saw on social media that a student has been killed.
But I think it's critical because Usia is raising a critical point. And it's not even students who can. Even you, Uzotu Uya Epic and Pay in Bram, you can die. Because the police are trying to suppress students.
And what's crazy for me is that the police represent the government.
Yeah. They're not operating by themselves.
Yeah.
It's not like
they represent the government.
Yeah. There's a minister who speaks to the other minister in a cabinet meeting, now on Zoom or whatever teams. But they're speaking to each other, these guys. And there hasn't been a serious conversation to say, comrades, we cannot kill students.
We can't kill children.
Who are asking us for what we promised
education.
Them. Since when?
This is so juvenile. It's like that Remember there was an era when black people didn't have money in January for the school uniforms.
Yes, exactly.
Because they were being ratcheted in December.
Yeah.
So ANC is basically doing the same thing. Because now we're like, no, guys, what do you mean you're cutting the budget? What did you do with the money?
And for me, the weird thing is that in the family, ne, even though everyone knows why we don't have money in Jan, school fees is the priority. There's no negotiation. We all know what happened in December. So, but when we come to Jan, even if it's borrowing, even if it's...
now it's changed. It's getting better.
Shark tanks. What do they call them? Loan sharks. Shark tanks. Loan sharks. Everyone knew.
Exactly.
No matter what we did.
Exactly. As black people, we are for education and learning and bettering ourselves.
And now the government seems to be suffering from the same January tendencies, but with the opposite agenda. Because now they're saying to kids, "Hamba fumani mali somewhere."
It's crazy.
Go get a bursary.
It's
go work.
Crazy, but it also speaks to what type of leadership we choose, what kind of characters we have in leadership, because this is so like obvious. You're just like, but education is just a basic, guys. Why are none of the grown-ups?
But how do we change it? How do we move to a position where students are actually getting what they deserve in terms of leadership? Because I've seen you be critical, of the political voices, and I think we must ask the question, but how do students get what they deserve? Because even I'm an activist, our fees must fall. I think some of them haven't represented.
They get bored.
Yeah? Of what? of the politics of students?
No, I'm saying bored.
Oh, bored. Okay.
They get bored.
Yeah.
It becomes like when Fees Must Fall was escalating a few years ago, then they picked one face, one female face, and then they made it a glamorous campaign and put on magazine covers, and then they moved the whole shift from the reality of the situation that actually these kids are fighting to go to school, and now you've made a celebrity out of one of them, and now you've shifted the whole.
Exactly. And also what that does, centralizing one or two people, right? It takes away from the fact that these people are not actually the ones marching every day. It's a collective, and I think there was a deliberate effort on the part of Fees Must Fall activists to try to remove this idea that these are our people. Things were trying to be resolved in a collective. But
the politicians always come and stuff right and then politicize movements.
And then the media as well, because they were looking for their narratives, right? To say, this is the brilliant person we've got here.
This is the star.
Here's
Beyonce.
Here are the superstars. Here are the future leaders. And now when it comes to the actual work, nothing is actually done. Because now you'd wonder, people have been in parliament, right? What new legislation have they proposed to deal with this?
Exactly, because we've been talking about this for years.
And as we said at the beginning, it's coming from, a history. It's coming from a history of struggle for this very issue. 2015 was not the beginning of discussions of Fees Must Fall. It was just the escalation of the discourse. And so you'd think that when people hit the ground in parliament...
Who have we put in parliament and what are they actually doing? And do they even understand?
It's tough. So we're going to move now to an ad break. But if you want to send us a WhatsApp video, feel free to do so. The number is 067 264 7806. I have a weird tendency of saying at the beginning and 0. But let me try to do it properly again. 067 264 7806. Send us your WhatsApp, a video comment. Send us your thoughts on this topic around free education, the Fees Must Fall protests, which are happening all around the nation. I mean, sometimes the focus has been on one or two universities such as Wits, but the reality is it's going on everywhere. Students are being excluded everywhere. It's not a Wits thing, it's a TUT thing. It's a VAL thing. It's a UKZN thing. It's a UCT, CPUT, Walter Sisulu University thing. And we really need to think more on these topics, but to speak more on these topics, because we cannot just leave the protest to not have the commentary and the intellectualism around it. So we're keen to hear from you. The number again is 067 264 7806.
This is what you missed on this week's episode of The Digital Hustler.
You should be getting lots of customers. You can't depend on the media.
Correct.
Media's broken.
Correct.
Like I've been in magazine, I've been in media's broken.
Yeah.
In the media, we're still trying to figure ourselves out.
Seriously, yeah?
So you need to own.
That's shocking, man.
You need to own, because media's after music industry, media was the place that was disrupted the most. Because now they're competing with you.
Correct.
Doing
exactly.
Palm TV.
Exactly. Correct. So true.
But you come from a traditional base
That's
with infrastructure and all of these things.
Yeah.
You can't just pivot overnight. You can't just go. It's a business model.
It's a business model. Yeah, so true.
So the business model has been disrupted, and everybody's trying.
Palm TV. The show that you are watching right now is Youth Parliament, where we try to discuss the politics of the land from a youth perspective. So I'm sitting here with the renowned poet Ntsiki Mazwai, and we're talking all things Fees Must Fall and all of the events that have been happening. So I think one of the issues that we touched on briefly was this issue of police brutality and how the police have been responding to the young people. In general, what are your sentiments around the police?
I'm not seeing much difference from the apartheid era and this era.
Yeah.
I think that there's something deeply and psychologically wrong with authority in South Africa, where they feel as if every time an issue is raised, violence should be the response.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of healing that needs to happen in SANDF. A lot of healing workshops and spiritual workshops, because these people have been very traumatized. So now they don't have a sense of what's right, what's wrong, how do you deal with it?
Yeah.
You know, as we start unpacking, when you hear about black children speaking about their parents and how they responded to them and the beatings and whatever, you realize that this is the people who are deeply traumatized.
Yeah.
So for me, it would start at rehabilitating SANDF.
Their perceptions. Do you think they actually need to have some political conscientizing as well? Because I think we all saw different responses, right? During the harsher lockdown levels, where when it came to, you know, people protesting for the right to access the beach, people protesting for their surfing right.
They were very respectful.
Yes, they were respectful. It was hi, hey. You know, even when they were trying to be tough, it was very light touch. Exactly. Exactly. And when it comes to university students and women and, you know, members of civil society,
people on the ground,
it's always, hey, Wena, you know?
Yeah.
And that's weird, because I don't know if you saw that clip last year where someone was in their yard, you know, just by the door.
Yeah.
And then the cops were saying, no, ma'am, go back in.
Yeah.
You know, and she's like, why?
Yeah.
You know, because small house.
They get very abusive.
They are abusive.
Yeah, they're abusive.
And do you think they don't see black worth?
Definitely not. That's why I was saying that there's a rehabilitation that needs to happen in SANDF. Our parents and those older than us are the apartheid generation. So psychologically, they've got an impediment when it comes to black-white issues.
Yeah.
We can see even in our leaders, people who are in ministerial positions, you can see them when they cower to whiteness in parliament, in public. So we can see, okay, guys, there's a trauma that's happened where you're cowering to white people. How do we unpack that? And how do we start working from a premise where we make sure that the black youth has got enough self-confidence to be able to be equal to everybody on the globe?
Yeah, it's actually quite, it's always something that's provocative to me, right? Because I think to everybody who's succeeded from the black community, and I'm like, how would they have seen it if that person is 21? You know, because Trevor Noah doesn't look like Trevor Noah at the age of 21. Do you know what I mean? He just looks like any other black kid. Right? Maybe he benefits a little bit from the being light-skinned, but even if you extrapolate it further, would they be able to spot Biko today? Right? Because there's a Biko in those crowds that the police are beating. But because it's almost as if they don't see, you know, history as it unfolds. Almost as if there's no understanding that history looks like this.
Yeah.
The present moment.
This is how we got here.
Yeah.
Let's look back.
The present moment always looks like the present moment. There wasn't a special oxygen in 1960 that people were breathing to say, no, this is revolutionary air. You know, because we always wonder, would I have done this? Who would I have been in the 60s, in the 70s? Yeah. What kind of a person would I have been in society? The black bodies look the same. Biko looked like every other student in med school at the time. He looked like the black students in the engineering faculty who are trying to get into university again. He looks like you and I.
He looks like the kids we're seeing in the
There's
papers
no halo.
right now.
There's no halo. You know, Mtokozi Sintumba, if
the
you
heroes are amongst us.
Yes, because it's everyday people.
Yeah.
And I often wonder, how do you make people see greatness in an everyday context? Because
the black people are not used to celebrating themselves.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They think that our experience as blacks is less than. So there's a psychology where that's why black consciousness is so important, where we need to instill it in black people. It's okay to celebrate yourself. You're beautiful, you know. So I think there's a lot of that missing. It's about our black confidence.
Yeah, we've got another comment from Uspe Zulu. And Spear says, I benefited from NSFAS. Now I have to pay them back. It's like the struggle never ends.
Word.
Mind you, I am unemployed.
See, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think there's an interesting conversation because I think Uspe...
I didn't even realize that it's a loan. I didn't know NSFAS
sometimes
was a loan.
It's a loan, and part of it can be converted to a bursary depending on your performance. There were some terms. I don't know whether they've stuck to it. But there's something I want to discuss here which is close to this. I don't think Uspe should be paying back.
No.
But I think there are some people who should be paying back. And I want to tell you what my experience has been with just the people around my life who benefited from NSFAS. Some people have said, I'm not paying back NSFAS. Education should be free, right? So that's their position, even though they're affluent. But other people, NSFAS has called them. You know, when I'm in the room and they get a call from NSFAS and they say, look, we want you to pay back. And this is how much we want you to pay back. And then the person says, look, I can't pay back 500 a month. But if we set up the debit order for 150 for now, I'm willing to pay the 150. And I think they've got their cap there, which is 300 rands or something like that. I don't know if you've ever got a call from NSFAS, but they've got a number where they don't want to go below that number. And I've been in a room more than once where people have said, look, now I can't do 300 right now because I just recently got employed and I'm trying to sort out all of these other things. But 250, let's go. And then they don't want to set up the debit order. And then I've thought to myself, all of these 250s that are out there, these are the 250s we were talking about earlier. Do you know what I mean? Me, I could even contribute a 250 to NSFAS voluntarily.
Yeah.
If they set up the debit order system. And I wonder how many people are there.
We would. That's the crazy thing. We would.
Yeah, because it's for education. We would happily
pay for the students.
It's for education. Yeah. We're living in a weird time. I thought, because they got this big guy from Rand Merchant Bank to come in, and we thought now it's going to be, it's going to be fine.
You guys, you like to believe.
Ne? In brands.
Oh, gosh. Once the media starts celebrating someone, you must just know, oh, gosh, we're in trouble.
They're gone.
So, no.
It's true.
Yeah, no.
But for me, sometimes I wonder why we struggle with simple things. Uspe can pay. That's a given. Uspe is unemployed. It's game over.
It's so traumatic.
It's game over.
Thing is just.
So why are you looking for Uspe to pay? But if there's a comrade or a fellow or whatever, I'm just using comrade now in a general sense. But if there's somebody who's now big at FNB, they can pay. But also don't go for a first year somebody who's on a graduate program and also say Patala 500.
Abo Pick and Pay, Nabo Wits, Nabo Spa.
They should meet us.
Are they not here? Are they just here to take our money? When do we make them come and help build schools?
Exactly.
Build things for the youth.
That's my view. Yeah.
Because they're just eating.
We've allowed people to escape under the corporate social responsibility tag. Because they pick a thing, they do a little something.
Exactly, and then
they say, no, well, us, we're not responsible. Look at all of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, and it's like, no.
It's never stuff that can...
Where's the school you've built?
And this leads me to an interesting question. There's so many billionaires who are saying, I'm donating half my wealth, whatever. And we never see it.
Yep.
It's always out there in the air.
Where are the funds from Global Citizen?
Important question, because I asked the same question the other day. I said, all of those pledges, show me the beneficiary. I want to hear one guy who's saying, "Ami imali global citizen is bafethu." Because you know when something is being done and it's done well, you don't need to look around for it.
Thank you. It's glaring. You see it. You're like
it retweets itself.
It retweets itself.
So you will know about it.
Yep.
When you now have to keep asking.
Yep.
That comrade contributed. Said 1 billion is coming. Where is the 1 billion?
Because now the students need it.
That's what
I'm saying. These people.
Because it's always in a thing. Now we're setting up the office. Now we are hiring the
children's money, and they must be held accountable. We need to follow the money trail. Where's the children's money?
Yeah.
Because the children need to go to school now.
And it's important. As for me, I can't stress this enough. Employment data came out. And they said, here's the youth unemployment, 62%. And now we're saying we want the youth to be employed. You can't be employed with no skill. Even you're here because your poetry is on fire. You're here because you've been, building your social media presence. It's not something that you just leave university and then you say, here I am, I have poems, right? That's not the way it works.
Takes years.
Takes years.
And years.
So in order for us to